Hey there folks, Joey D'Angelo's here with a movie review for Watership Down, the Martin Rosen film from Richard Adams' novel. I haven't done a regular review since maybe Boyhood. I might talk about the Oscar stuff at a later date, but you know, I watched all 8 nominees, by the way, and Birdman was still my favorite out of the bunch, but we're not talking about the Oscars today. We're talking about Watership Down, this movie about bunnies and violence. That's basically how most people will describe this movie to you that are just like watching it. It's like, dude, what's Watership Down? They'll be like, oh, it's bunnies and violence, bunnies and blood or whatever. So, you know, it's a film that's, I don't think it's as violent as people remember it to be. There are some violent sequences to be sure, and I would not show this to a really, really, really young child. But I wouldn't, mind showing this to like somebody who was like 8 or 10. I don't think it's that bad, honestly. I mean, there are some gruesome little, disturbing sequences, rabbits choking on things, blood. The animation itself is gritty, so that way it doesn't look that clean, and it actually kind of works for the movie's favor that the animation, is pretty gritty. Outside of the first scene, which... yeah, the first scene has a very different look from the rest of the film. But let's get to the story. There's these rabbits, and they have to move, and there's a bunch of these rabbits, and they encounter several problems, different animals, humans, nature. They have to deal with death and survival of the fittest. It's a struggle. As the kids say these days, the struggle is real, and it's truly real in this movie. I don't think it's the greatest animated film I've ever seen. I definitely would recommend it, and the reason for that is because there's not really too many other animated films like Watership Down that are pretty honest, and they deal with a lot of touchy themes that most parents don't want to introduce to their kids. Death, and how creatures are killed. They don't discuss the fragility of life so much. Usually it's just kind of a threat in the story that happens, and then it's just kind of ignored from that point on. But really, with Watership Down, it's really at the forefront of the film, but it doesn't deal with it in a really cynical way. It just kind of deals with it in like a matter-of-fact sort of way, and I think that's why I really appreciate this movie. Like I said, the general character towards the end of the film was one of my favorite animated villains. He's just this really ugly old rabbit. And, like, at the end of the film, he, like, attacks something that's much larger than he is, and it's hysterical. It's almost like those, the music clip where people play where somebody's about to jump in the air and they're about to do something amazing. I almost want to play that during it, but, that's just my cynical side talking. But there are a lot of good voice actors in here, and the reason being is that Watership Down was it was a bestseller. It wasn't like just a piece of junk. People kind of wanted to be involved in this. John Hurt's in it, Richard Briers, Denham Elliott. There's Ralph Richardson's in it. I mean, there's quite a few good voice talents in it. They're really good. It's slightly distracting because you'll recognize the voices if you're a movie buff. However, it's still really good. So I purchased the Criterion edition, and Watership Down, interestingly enough, is the second animated film in the Criterion collection to receive, a spine number. The first in the Blu-ray lineup, at least. They had Akira in the Laserdisc series, but Fantastic Mr. Fox was technically the first animated film to be featured in Criterion's DVD Blu-ray era, second one being Watership Down. I eagerly look forward to Criterion's next animation entry. Be really cool. The supplements, there's not a lot of them, but they are quite valuable. The essay is really good. It talks about how the film is kind of unique. Guillermo del Toro talks about the film's impact on him when he watched it as a teenager. There's another supplement with director Martin Rosen describing the production of the film. It's not very long, but it's quite informative. And there's also a feature with the animators discussing the backgrounds and the overall visual style of the film. You can also see the film storyboards as a supplement, and of course the trailer, which the trailer kind of sums up a lot of stuff. It sums up all like the most famous scenes But I still think it's worth watching, especially if you're an animation buff or if you're a fan of movie oddities like Watership Down. Also, I gotta say, like, the poster is just one of the creepiest things I've seen in my life. I just love this poster so much. It's also the cover of the Criterion Edition, and it's like, what else were you gonna put as the cover of this, Blu-ray? So, Watership Down, it's a story, things happen. I don't necessarily watch it for the characters, I watch it for the animation and the music. There's also a song by Art Garfunkel in there, which is pretty cool and weird. So, yeah, I'd say check out Watership Down. Hopefully I'll have another review later on, and this week I'll be discussing the Mark of Zorro with Douglas Fairbanks for Silent Film Saturday. So I'm going to see you guys later.